everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Atheist Experience. I'm your host, Matt Dillahunty. Joining me this week's Jen Peeples. We are live. It is November 13th, 2011. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. How about
I
you?
have a bit of a cold.
I know. I'm just like staying away from you.
I'm on the tail end of a nasty cold. My apologies if I'm overly gruff or fall asleep. But this is a live public access television program sponsored by the Atheist Community of Austin. You can email us at tv@atheist-community.org, and that goes to myself, the co-hosts, and some of the people behind the scenes. We can't respond to all the email that comes in. And also, some of them that I do respond to ends up being resulting in a kind of a lengthy conversation back and forth. And sometimes I just have to stop responding. If you want to take that as a win, good for you. You have beaten me into submission by flooding my email box. In addition to this program, the ACA also sponsors an internet-only podcast called The Nonprofits. That's PROPHETS, and you can go to nonprofitsradio.com for more information about that show. It's currently on hiatus because of all the weddings and honeymoons and things that we had, and because I have several events that are going to conflict with shows. We're not exactly sure when the next show is going to be. Very probably it will be December 17th. And the reason for that is that this weekend, well, actually this Thursday, I'm doing a debate in Georgia. I'm flying. Oddly enough, did you know that in order to get to Atlanta from Austin, sometimes you have to fly to Denver?
Really?
Yeah, so next Wednesday,
that's odd.
I'm getting up bright and early to get down to the airport, to fly to Denver, to sit around for an hour, to fly to Atlanta, to get in there like at 5 or 6 at night, or about 5, I think. And I know there's going to be some kind of event going on Wednesday night. I don't know. I don't have the specifics. If you're in the Atlanta area, contact the people involved. You can find information on Facebook about this. I think it's Gainesville College. I apologize. I don't have all the information right in front of me. And the debate is going to be good without God, ? And it's a moderated debate between myself and a pastor from a local church there. I'm hearing an echo, by the way. And as a follow-up, December 3rd, which is just a couple weeks after that, it's a Saturday, I believe. I'm in New York for what I think is another debate, if I remember correctly. I'll get more information about that. I know there's going to be a meetup after the debate. If you can follow me on Twitter or Facebook, which will automatically get my tweets posted to it, and I'll try to remember to tell everybody where we're going to be. But that's it for that. In addition to the nonprofits, the ACA also sponsors Godless Bitches, a new podcast that has also not had a show in a couple weeks due to weddings. But they're going to be recording a new episode tomorrow night. They didn't get to do one last week. And should be regular Monday thing for the foreseeable future. There's not as many. Oddly enough, if you do a podcast on Monday night, not as many conflicts as there are with Saturday mornings.
There you
go. Who knew? You can also go to the Atheist Experience or the ACA blog at freethoughtblogs.com/AXP, and the Atheist Community of Austin's website is atheist-community.org. There's a frequently asked questions page there, along with information about upcoming events and how to contact the group, etc. And that's all I have.
Cool.
What do you have?
What I have a quick topic here. Some of you may have heard that the National Vaccine Information Center is running a series of ads on Delta Airlines.
That sounds really official.
Yeah.
Is that like a government agency or something?
Well, no, actually, and it's an organization. It's an anti-vaccine organization run by Barbara Loe Fisher. And it probably should be called the National Vaccine Disinformation Center because they put out a lot of bad information on there. In fact, I've got some quotes from Barbara Loe Fisher right here, some things that she said in the past. This came from a 2009 talk, so it's fairly recent. She says that vaccines are a de facto selection of the genetically vulnerable for sacrifice, that doctors who administer vaccines are the moral equivalent of the doctors tried at Nuremberg.
Really?
Yeah. That the U.S. government vaccine policy is comparable to medical experiments conducted by Nazis during World War II. And these views are still displayed on her website. And so anyway, this organization is running this ad on Delta Airlines. And it starts off with some generic advice about hand washing and covering your mouth when you're sneezing or coughing. and then it starts in with the nonsense. Like if you take enough vitamins C and D, these act as natural preventatives to keep you from getting the flu. And then she talks about, or the ad talks about getting enough exercise and getting enough rest as a way of keeping your immune system healthy. And all these things are not bad advice, but they don't act as a magic talisman to protect you against the flu. And then at the end of the ad, almost as an afterthought, it mentions the flu shot as another option, which is strange considering the flu vaccine is your best chance of avoiding getting the flu. So it significantly reduces your chance of getting the flu, and it's also very effective at preventing you from dying of the flu.
Wait, they mention?
The ad mentions it, yes, which is very, very odd considering her views on vaccines.
So they're against vaccination of kids.
Yes.
But they're okay with getting a flu shot.
No, actually they're not. They put this at the very end, I guess, so they can avoid this claim that they're actually anti-vaccine.
Here's all the things you can do to stay healthier and avoid the flu, and then like in the fine print.
Yeah. By the way, you can get a flu shot. But if you go to their website, you're going to find all of the so-called toxins that are in the vaccines and how it's bad for you. So anyway, and this, of course, has prompted a number of organizations like the American Academy of Pediatrics to ask Delta to remove the ad. So far, Delta has refused to remove the ad, so there's a lot of people that are actually boycotting Delta Airlines right now.
Yeah, I noticed the volume on this kind of kicked up a little at Skeptic and on Reddit.
Yeah. So what's happened with the anti-vaxxers as a result of this is that they're now claiming that their First Amendment rights are being abridged because people who are calling for boycotts of Delta and are basically exposing the hypocrisy of this ad. And so if you're an anti-vaxxer and you think your First Amendment rights are being abridged because people are criticizing these views, you're an idiot. Your First Amendment rights don't prevent you from being criticized for spouting stupidity, like.
Yeah, the other thing
like
is, you know, I'm as big a proponent for free speech as you're probably going to find.
Yeah.
On the other hand, we do have some responsibility, and so there are some limits on it. If I put on a lab coat and come in here and sit down on the show and start telling people that now that flu season's here, the best thing that you can do is make sure that you eat lots and lots of ice cream and wash it down with battery acid. I could be held liable for anybody who follows that if I'm presenting myself as an authority. And one of the things that I hate most are these anti-science groups. They're not just anti-vaccination, they're anti-science groups who have people tromping around either in lab coats or with, we're the NVIC, the National Vaccine Information Council or Committee or whatever it is, so that it sounds more official and sounds like, some government agency or something or some sort of peer-reviewed research center, when really it's a couple of doofuses who have bought into a conspiracy theory, given themselves a label, and use the internet to tromp out, and actually not just destroy lives, but I think they're culpable in the deaths of people. They don't understand herd immunity. They don't understand that not everybody can get these vaccines, and they don't seem to understand the benefits of this. It's just, here's some link I heard, which has been thoroughly disproven, and the whole thing with Wakefield, et cetera.
Well, and the other thing is that there was recently a news story about a group that they had a Facebook page for a while, but they were talking about pox parties, basically exposing their children to chicken pox deliberately. And because it's not always convenient to find a chicken pox party near where you live, they were offering to send lollipops that their infected children had sucked on through the mail to other parents who wanted to infect their children with chicken pox. And there's like so many problems with this. First of all, you don't know anything about the kids that you're getting, their saliva on this lollipop. But the other thing is it's actually a felony to send a contagious disease or any kind of microbe through the mail without following specific regulations, you can get prosecuted under the same law that prohibits people from sending anthrax through the mail.
I think it's kind of a really good way to demonstrate the difference between science and pseudoscience. And the scientists spend time actually studying the immune system and understanding how we actually build up antibodies to diseases and viruses, and so we invent vaccines that are set at a safe dose that allow your body to fight this without actually making you sick. And the pseudoscientists, on the other hand, want to shrug all that off, but they know just enough to be dangerous, and so they know that if they expose their kid to chicken pox, that their kid will get chicken pox, and then he'll develop the antibodies to chicken pox, and he won't have to suffer it as an adult. You didn't have to make him sick to do that. If you actually bothered with science instead of pseudoscience, you would have figured out that you didn't have to put your kid through torturous oatmeal baths and itch infestations and potential death. I mean, we live in a society where we're generally spoiled, where influenza, which killed more people than anything, at that period of time, it's the flu season. We're going to get a shot and we're going to get the sniffles. We live at a time where I doubt most of you don't even know anybody who had smallpox. And I know there's a bunch of people who have no idea what chickenpox is either. But no, that's not good enough for the New Age folks who decide that they know better than the scientists, and so they end up putting their kids through hell and possibly even killing them when there's a much easier.
Well, and the really frightening thing was, in the wake of this pox party thing, there was one woman who posted a request for chickenpox and measles, because apparently her ex-husband was going to court to force her to vaccinate her children against measles. And so she was the only way she could prevent them from being vaccinated was to infect them. So she was trying to find someone who had measles so that she could deliberately infect her children with measles, which is a much, much more serious disease than chickenpox.
Do we even need to say that these people just need to be locked up?
Yeah,
if you ran around with a needle with an infectious disease intending to expose anybody else other than your kids, you'd be in jail right now.
Yeah.
For some reason, we let people do things to their kids that we wouldn't let them do to anybody else.
Well, I'm hoping that they actually get investigated for mailing these things through the mail, and that we end up with some prosecutions for this, because this is nonsense.
Yeah.
It puts everyone at risk. But these people don't care about that. They've demonstrated that over and over again. So anyway, that's my seasonal anti-vaccine rant.
Well, Beth and I went and got flu shots actually a month and a half ago, I think, when they first started giving them out.
Yeah.
While I've been sick this week, at least I haven't been sick with the flu. I've got just a regular old rhinovirus. And boy, when we come out with a way to prevent that, I'll be all over that.
Well, I'm sure somebody will email us with an advice to take more vitamin D, but not the kind you get in the pill. It's got to be a special vitamin D that can only come from his friends who are naturopaths and who know exactly what kind of vitamin D you should take.
They go out and they trap the vitamin D animal in a nice little trap, and then they squeeze it with, it's got to be, natural.
It has to be organic vitamin D.
Organic, fresh squeezed vitamin D right out of the D weevil. But, all right, we got John in Costa Mesa, California. How are you?
Hi. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yep.
And, okay, well, first off, I'd just like to say why I'm calling, and I really dislike your show and how you're doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And the way I found out about your show is I caught my son watching your show last week.
What's your son's name?
His name is Nick.
And you caught him watching the show?
Yeah, he's 12 years old, and I caught him watching the show online.
Oh, cool.
Good for
Not
Nick.
cool.
Not cool?
After I confronted him about it, he told me he considers himself an atheist. And, obviously he's way too young to make a decision like that. I said, he's only 12 years old, and it's just a phase. But
why is he
I
too
think
young?
that it's disgusting that you're opening a door to this.
Well, wait, I have a question for you. Why is Nick too young to make that decision?
Well, because he's 12 years old. He
Okay,
can't see things
but wait a
clearly.
minute.
But
But wait a minute. I was confirmed into the Episcopal Church when I was 12 years old. Was I too young to make that decision?
No, because
Why
that
not?
was your parents' decision.
No, it wasn't
Yeah,
my
okay.
decision.
I don't
It
believe
doesn't-
you're a real call. I'm hanging up. I think you may be the same asshole that's been pranking us over and over again, but I don't believe that this is real at all. Sorry. I don't buy it for 1 second. Anybody who can be that stupidly contradictory and who waits around on the phone, oh, he's not old enough to make that decision, but he would have been old enough to make his parents' decision, or if his parents.
Well, and
he's just an idiot.
Just in case anybody out there is that stupid, if you're...
They're not.
No, they're not, of course not. But for those who are not familiar with things like confirmation in the Episcopal Church, for example, your parents can't make that decision for you. You actually have to go to classes, and the priest who's going to recommend you for confirmation and participate in that has to be convinced that you are actually making a commitment to the faith. You individually, not your parents. So it's not something your parents decide for you. That's just absurd.
Yeah, we don't need people to do. First of all, do I know for sure that was a fake call? No, but I know it was a waste of our time. We don't need people making fake calls like that. And by the way, if you're a parent and you come across your kid watching something that you don't agree with, first of all, I can't believe you'd bother to call us to tell us that you don't like the fact that we're exercising our free speech, because the irony of you exercising your free speech to object to ours is way thick. But second of all, you'd think maybe you'd just have a conversation with your son, or if you're a Christian, maybe you ought to pray. As a matter of fact, if you're a Christian and you're thinking about calling the show or emailing us, I have a new suggestion for all of you. I may have mentioned this last week, I can't remember, but I've had to start doing this a lot in email. If you're a Christian and you want to email or call the show, before you do so, pray and ask your God what you should say to ensure that we listen, that you don't get hung up on, and that you change our mind. Because if you email and you call and say that you have prayed and that you believe that God is directing you to give us Pascal's wager for the 100,000th time, you have just disconfirmed the existence or intelligence of your God. Period. So pray first. I don't think it'll do much good, but it might cut down on the number of calls that just have absolutely no substance. We've got Julian in Dusseldorf. How are you?
Yes, hi Matt. Hi Jen.
Hi.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
We can hear you, thanks.
Perfect. I love you guys. Great show. And before I forget, Matt, please at some point write a book. I have dozens of friends even in Germany who would buy it right away. So okay, I'll quickly try to state my question or problem so that you can hopefully take some time and elaborate in detail on the subject. Since
Okay.
I have seen most of your previous episodes, and this is a subject that I haven't seen much talk about, even though I believe it is very current, especially in Western countries. Basically, I have been an anti-theist, materialist, and active atheist for a few years now, and I don't have any problems debating religious people or theists for that matter. But I have recently encountered problems when debating so-called spiritual people who come from a rather deistic position and use scientific words such as energy and consciousness in a rather esoteric way. Basically, they start talking about the limitation of reason, and that reason is only one dimension, one level, and that consciousness kind of like goes beyond and is the key to experiencing the world. And they say that everyone perceives reality subjectively. So basically, everyone lives in his illusion of subjective reality, and this illusion, metaphorically speaking, is kind of like a canvas on which we only see the shadows of the objective reality, the reality as it actually is. And
Yeah.
evidence for this, to a certain point, is differing preferences, values, and tastes. For example, one person perceives beauty and reality entirely differently, just to give one of their examples. Thereby, everything has a different life, and thereby perhaps different standards of evidence. This extends to the point that truth and science, which is supposed to be objective and is there to filter out mistakes made by our senses, but actually science, they say, is also just applicable in an individual subjective reality. So science can just say something about the world as we perceive it subjectively. And the problem is, just to finish off, that we must, to a certain degree, agree with that, because we don't know for sure that there's perhaps just our own subjective reality or consciousness, as in the philosophy of solipsism, although I know that probably this would violate Occam's razor. So perhaps, hopefully you can tell me how I should respond to this and argue for a reality of reason and a material worldview.
Sure. I mean, first of all, we're talking about a particular kind of hard version of solipsism. It's, by and large, I find that these people aren't actually worth having a conversation with, because they have this preconception that reality and truth is necessarily subjective, and so and even down to the point where I may not exist, and how frustrating is it for them, for their imagination, to have created someone like me who so vehemently denies the assertions that they're actually making. They want to say that, you know, all the values are subjective because we have different preferences. Well, the fact that I might like apples over oranges and somebody else might like oranges over apples doesn't change the fact that, to the best of our ability to discern anything, we both live in the same universe that has both apples and oranges. The fact that we have different preferences shows that we have different people. Those aren't truth statements. There's no truth that apples are better than oranges or oranges are better than apples in an objective sense. So the fact that some assessments are subjective doesn't in any way discount the objective reality. But even if there wasn't, even if to the extent that solipsism would be correct, I still have to act as if I'm living, I have no choice but to act as if I'm living in the reality that I experience. And it makes sense that it's shared. And if it's not, I don't care. So the fact that they misuse words like energy and trot out arguments that are, well, you can't prove that, you know, you're not all just a figment of my imagination. You know what? I wish you were a figment of my imagination, because you're right, I can't prove that I'm not, but I don't care. It doesn't impact my life at all, and it in no way leads to your ability to define a truth. So if their argument is that there is no truth, that this is all just subjective opinion and subjective experience, then they cannot get from that to any sort of objective statement. They cannot get to, then therefore my deism is rational. I mean, the best they can do is say that it's rational within my own worldview, and they can't distinguish themselves from the psychopaths that we lock up. Or actually, I probably shouldn't use that word because clinical meaning, but the crazy people that get locked up. We have a method by which we come together and say, you know what, these views are so divorced from reality, from testable, observable reality, that these people are a danger to themselves and others. And what some of the hard solipsists, like the ones you're talking about, or the spiritual people are doing, are basically beginning with this, well, we can't absolutely know, therefore we don't know anything. No, that's wrong. The fact that we're not absolutely certain about everything doesn't mean we don't have a clue about anything. They may not have a clue about anything, but that doesn't mean the rest of us don't live and operate in a reality that is testable, that is independently confirmable, and even if it's all an illusion, that means you're a figment in my imagination, not the other way around.
Okay, I understand. And if you set aside the argument from solipsism, what would you say to basically their argument for science not being objective, but science also just being basically applicable in one's individual subjective reality? That's what they said is that logic and reason is fine, and he even said that evolution may have occurred, but basically our methods of investigating, those are also basically subject to our own perception.
This isn't any different from the argument that I addressed. They're just applying it to science, and What they're basically saying is that Jen goes in the laboratory and does a test and gets specific results and publishes it in a journal, and several of us go out and repeat it, and we get consistent results, and we confirm this, and therefore what we appear to see as objective science is actually subjective. We just don't know whose subjective science it is. They're absolutely wrong when it comes to logical reasoning, even if they were right about the solipsism. And that is because identity, non-contradiction, and excluded middle are absolute. They're true in all possible worlds and everything. They're not things. I don't want to go back into tag and go down that line. But they can't even begin to reason their claim without those being true. And that is the foundational problem of them trying to begin with this subjective solipsistic view and extend it to everything, because they have to then make use of the logical absolutes. And they can't do that. And if they chuck that out and say that logic's subjective and science is subjective and reality is subjective, I don't want to talk to them. It is a complete waste of time. They have demonstrated that they are divorced from reason, and therefore there is no reasonable argument that can reach them until you demonstrate that it's a really bad idea for them to be reasonable. But how can you do that without reason? These are people who have become enamored of an idea, and these people often fall into the same sort of intellectually elite agnostics who like to pretend that, well, we just don't know, it's absurd. And the fact of the matter is, as unfortunate it is, there are some people that it's just not worth bothering with. If they are not willing to accept reason, you may be wasting your time trying to have a reasonable discussion with them.
Okay, so if the entire world would experience kind of like some sort of deity in their own consciousness, would that then make it real in our shared reality?
I don't know.
You wouldn't know?
I don't know what that is or what that would be or how it would play out, because I can't think of anything that would count as evidence for an actual deity because of the very nature of the question, which is why my answer to when people have asked, what would it take to convince you that a God exists? My answer is now and will be, I have no idea. But I have to think that anything that would qualify as a God should know what it would take to convince me and should be capable of doing it. And until that happens, it's not my responsibility. It's that God's ability. If this is a being that exists transcendentally, that is unnatural, supernatural, whatever, I can't possibly conceive of what it is that could be counted as evidence, because something that would appear to me to be perhaps divine in nature, I'm relying on my own experience of it, and I cannot assess it objectively. And so we used to say, we said before that perhaps writing in the sky that was simultaneously viewed by everybody in their own language, even though it was one piece that said, I am the Lord your God, perhaps that might qualify. But in hindsight, I cannot then distinguish the source of that message, whether or not it is a God or a very sophisticated alien intelligence or a mass delusion. Because once mass delusion enters the picture, I may well be one of the deluded, and anybody who can attempt to assess this may be among the deluded. So you're in a position where you cannot confirm anything.
Okay, I understand.
Cool.
And just to finish off, and your justification for basically a materialist worldview, would you go down to just saying that basically everything else is a violation to Occam's razor, and that neuroscience basically points to there only being our brain that produces our consciousness, or do you have any sort of other explanation that I could use?
Well, I think that neuroscience clearly points to the brain being the source of consciousness, and the fact that if you damage someone's brain, through an accident or some kind of organic process, then their perception of themselves and the world around them changes.
Okay.
Well, you asked about.
I mean, we have a lot of examples in the case of Alzheimer's and other forms of dementia, where if you damage a specific part of the brain, you get a marked personality change. and essentially a loss of who that person really is.
So
Okay.
you asked about materialist, and I'll rephrase it in terms of naturalism, and that there's two different aspects of this. There's philosophical naturalism, which is the philosophical position that nothing but the natural world exists, and then there's methodological naturalism, which is what science makes use of, and it's a matter of pure practicality, that the natural world is all that science is capable of actually investigating, and therefore that's all it can actually make any statements about. And in my case, I don't necessarily assert that the natural world is all that exists, although I think that's very likely to be true. I'm open to any of it. I'm more along the lines of methodological naturalism. When you ask specifically about the brain and the mind, it's possible to assert that there's a ghost in the machine, that there's some sort of spirit pulling the strings, but everything we've learned about the brain demonstrates that not only is that hypothesis unnecessary, but it's most likely not true. Because we can reboot people's brains. We can change their personalities, their memories, their desires. Every bit of evidence we have demonstrates that who I am is what my brain does, and this can be changed in a purely physical aspect. And so I find no room for any soul. What happens? Does the soul get rebooted along with the brain? When I have a split brain patient and they form two personalities, do we get two different souls? I don't know what's going on there. And so it seems to me that we should have outgrown this idea, but it's just such a wonderful, warm, fuzzy thing to talk about soulmates and living forever and, oh, you touched my soul as a form of metaphor, that it lingers. And in some cases, I don't mind it. I've talked about the poetic human spirit before, and I don't believe that there's a spirit in any individual or in the collective. But poetically, I don't mind it. But it does keep alive the more literal, kind of arguments and claims.
Right.
Anyway, thanks a lot, Julian. I appreciate the call.
Thank you very much.
Cheers.
Thanks.
All right. As a reminder, when the show's over, we get together and go to dinner at El Arroyo. I'm sure they'll put the address up on the screen right now. There it is.
Yeah, there you go.
We're done with the show here in about 25 minutes and some change, and we'll be down there about 6 o'clock. Any atheist or atheist-friendly person is welcome to join us. You don't have to be a member to come to any of our events, except for the private parties that we don't tell you about. But if you're coming down to preach, proselytize, or provoke, please don't. Just pick up the phone or send an email, and we'll do what we can to get in touch with you. We've got Roderick in Shreveport. How are you?
Hello.
Hi.
I'm a first-time caller. I'm a thesis Christian,
You're a what?
Well, I'm a little nervous, so you gotta get out there with me.
You're a what?
I'm a Christian.
What was the word before that?
I'm a thesis. Just saying that.
Theist?
Thesis.
What is
A
that?
thesis?
No, I said thesis.
Spell it.
Theist.
Theist.
Yeah, theist. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry.
What's it mean?
Someone who believes in God.
Okay, so you believe in God and you're a Christian. You think there are Christians that aren't theists?
There are some Christians that are thesis.
Okay.
But anyway, I just want to make a case for God, justification for God.
Did you pray before you called?
Basically, I actually did.
And did God answer you?
No.
Okay.
Okay.
But anyway, I still want to make a case.
Sure, go ahead.
I've been watching the show for, say, about months now, and I've been, going back on episodes, and I looked at all the stuff you said, like slavery, that God wanted slavery, genocide, sacrificing, and stoning.
Yeah, actually, what I would say, just for clarity, is that the Bible says that God condones slavery. I have no idea. I don't think a God exists. So I don't think a God condones anything. And if he did, I have no idea. If he does exist, I still don't know what he condones. But yeah, go ahead.
Okay, well, God established these laws so that we, as people, can understand that they're wrong. In Jeremiah 50.
Wait. You're getting ready to quote a Bible verse, but I just want to make sure I understood you. You're saying that God established slavery.
Yeah, he established these laws so that...
No, hang on. You're saying that God ordered and okayed slavery just so people would know that it was wrong?
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
So your God says that it's right in order for people to discover that it's wrong.
Yes.
What kind of idiot is that?
You're missing the point. You're missing
Yes,
the point.
I am missing the point.
Yeah, okay.
Why would a God need to tell somebody that something was right in order for them to discover it was wrong? And if that's the case, is lying and murder right and we just haven't discovered it yet?
No. They're wrong. But what I'm saying is that we're sheep. Okay, God calls us sheep, and we all when we don't have our shepherd, we run astray. And Jesus, the ultimate sacrifice, was the way to abolish all those laws, all those.
Hey, if God made those laws, why was Jesus' sacrifice necessary to abolish the laws? Why couldn't God just change his mind?
The sacrifice, what I'm saying, the sacrifice was to abolish all that.
I know what you said. Listen to the question. God created those laws, and you're saying that he sent Jesus as a sacrifice in order to abolish those laws.
Yeah.
If both of those actions were done by God, then explain to me why God created the laws in the first place, or why he didn't just change them.
Because he wanted us to see that they're bad. Because,
Do you have any kids?
Huh?
Do you have any kids?
No, sir.
Okay, but let's pretend you had a kid. If you wanted them to know something was bad, would you tell them it was good?
Wait, say that again. You want me
If you wanted your kid to know that something was bad, would you tell them it was good?
No.
Okay, why do you think that it's okay for a God to do that?
Well, I'm saying is because it says in the Bible that, it says in the Bible that it was in Deuteronomy that we should keep God's commandment, his covenant, the laws, all that stuff.
Okay, but wait a minute. You just said that Jesus' sacrifice did away with all that, right?
Yes, it did.
Okay, so why are you quoting Deuteronomy? Or trying to?
Because it's in the Bible.
So what? So is slavery and genocide.
But those are bad things.
Well, I agree with that. So why did God order them?
He ordered them so we can know that they're bad.
Why couldn't he just say, don't do this stuff, it's bad?
I mean, that was okay for murder.
Let me finish.
Yeah.
Because if
I'll let you finish, but you have no idea how close to finished you are.
Because if we had the orders to not know those things, then we will run astray and we will do those things without any justification.
Wait. In the Ten Commandments, there's things like, thou shalt not kill.
Yeah, that's a good thing.
Okay. How do you know that's a good thing? Because
God said it.
Yeah, but he also said to go kill some people.
You're not a real caller. I just heard you laugh.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, you are sorry.
Yeah.
After I just got done saying we do not need people to call. No, shut up. You're done. I just got done saying we don't need people to call in to caricature Christianity or any other religion. While some of you may find it fun just to make fun of people and their stupid little beliefs, actually, this show is about communication and about educating people and about having a conversation. Yeah. And I get plenty of email from people who do seriously believe, and there are callers who are waiting to call in who do seriously believe, who'd like to have these conversations. And, quite frankly, I'm this close to initiating some sort of call screening process where we call your ass back and inviting nothing but pastors to come on the show and actually have real conversations. And believe me, they won't be nearly as amusing as you think they're going to be. So please don't do us any favors and don't try to get yourself on TV because you just look like a douche.
Yeah.
Hey, Nick, thanks for waiting. Did you wait?
Hello?
Nick, are you there?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Thanks for waiting.
Okay, thank you.
I apologize that you had to wait through such nonsense.
Yeah, all that was absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I love your show, by the way. I just wanted to say that. And do you guys consider yourselves nihilists?
No.
Nope.
Okay. Well, that was just my first question. I was curious because I had an argument with one of my friends. We're both atheists, but he, figured that every atheist is a nihilist, essentially. And that any morals, any guideline, that there's nothing inherently and that it is all just personal.
Nope. I'm not a nihilist. I don't subscribe to moral relativism or subjective morality. As a matter of fact, I ran around the country for a year and a half, or almost 2 years, giving a talk on the superiority of secular morality, specifically decrying that. And the next 2 debates that I'm in are both about morality. Yeah, not a nihilist, not a relativist.
Okay. What do you think about transhumanism, and what do you think about its future?
Well, that would be a good conversation for Jeff.
Yeah, Jeff D is a transhumanist.
Transhumanist too. That's what I was wondering.
Yeah, Jeff, you should call back on a week when Jeff D's here because he's a transhumanist. I'm not. I think it's certainly interesting prospect. To me, it's still in the realm of science fiction, and I think when people start talking about a singularity and eternal life, okay, maybe they're right. And when it happens, or when there's actual evidence for it, is of course the time to believe it. That doesn't mean that I'm opposed to it. I think we should be working towards goals like that, and that some of our scientific efforts should definitely be directed towards increasing life, health, longevity, etc. I also think that there are a lot of other things that we also need to be focused on. We have real serious issues that need to be addressed. And right now, I actually hope that the transhumanists are wrong. And I hope that if there is some singularity where eternal life is possible, that it's pushed far enough out that we can let some of the buffoons and superstitions die off before we start initiating the group that's going to live forever. Because
I don't. Since they believe in the afterlife, they won't want to live forever like us. So
it's kind of hellish. So I see, other than Nick, we have no callers left, which means the rest of you are prank callers, evidently. It's good to know. Good to know that we come here and donate our time when we're sick, and it's just for the amusement of people in the chat room. Thank you. Anyway, Nick, go ahead.
Okay, another question. I'm not clear on this because I actually haven't done any research on it, but hasn't the Big Bang Theory been disproved? Don't they have another theory going on right now that they're trying to prove?
Well, if they had another theory that they were trying to prove, then that wouldn't be a disconfirmation of the Big Bang Theory.
No, I'm not saying that.
Sure.
I was wondering if there was another major theory that was coming into play.
There's
For some reason I heard that.
There's string theory and M theory and things.
You should probably
like that.
call a show with physicists and with astrophysicists and with quantum physicists and somebody that's not just an atheist sitting around on a public access TV show. Because the only thing I can tell you is that the cosmic microwave background radiation confirmed the predictions made by the Big Bang model, therefore establishing it as the current best model of what happened at the founding of the universe. Outside of that, you're calling the wrong people.
Okay. No, I wasn't sure if there actually was. And I had one last question, which was, is there any major, famous atheist thinkers that you guys don't necessarily like?
Famous major atheist thinkers that we don't necessarily like.
Yeah,
well,
I can think of an example.
Sure. I have a hard time thinking of any that I don't like. Certainly, there are points upon which I've disagreed with all of them. I mean, I've disagreed with, except for maybe Dennett, Dawkins, Harris, and Hitchens, I've disagreed with on a number of different things. Yeah. They're not necessarily major issues. Maybe I'm not right, but I'm pretty sure they're wrong. But it's one of those things where It doesn't make me not like them. If anything, it makes me like them more because, while I have not had a chance to actually have a conversation with Hitchens or any in-depth conversation with Harris, getting to actually talk to these individuals, they're the type of people who are capable of actually defending their ideas. And Hitchens could be wrong and still defend his idea better than I could in some cases, which I just find fascinating. But the fact that people are willing to change their mind based on evidence makes me like them. It's the people who are not willing to change their mind no matter what the evidence says. Those are the people I dislike, and I don't find many of those, at least in the prominent atheist community.
Uh-huh.
I don't know, is there anybody that you've got to...
I can't think of anything, yeah, there might be some points of disagreement here and there, but I don't know a lot of big name atheists personally, so my view of them is informed by their arguments, and so far, like Matt said, anybody that's willing to change their mind based on reason and evidence, I'm probably going to be okay with them.
Yeah.
Now, if you said skeptic instead of atheist, then I might have been able to, I might have come up with one, but anyway.
Yeah.
What else? Is that it?
Oh, I was referring to people more like who aren't necessarily, trying to think of the word, who aren't necessarily ultra, vocal on atheism. I'm like Ayn Rand and objectivism.
Oh.
Oh, well, in that case.
Yeah, actually, Russell and I, or Russell mostly, I was here when Russell did a show on objecting to objectivism, because he knows far more about it than I do. He's actually here today, but we're not going to go down that path again. Go dig through the archives. Go to atheist-experience.com/archive, and you can select to view it by year or all years, and then you can just do a search for objectivism, and you can get Russell's take on it. And I believe he's got something at his blog, too, don't you, Russell?
Yeah.
At kazim.blogspot.com?
But he can write in.
You can write in, and Russell will let you know.
Oh, okay.
So I'm gonna let you go because we're down to like 12 minutes or so left, or 10 minutes left on the show. Appreciate it. Thanks, Nick.
Yeah, you too.
We had a caller, but...
Well, all of the lines are flashing now, and I'm sure that Steve... you know what? I'm gonna roll the bones. Hey, you're on the air. Who's this?
Hey, this is Rob from Atlanta.
Hey, Rob. How are you?
Good. How you doing?
Pretty good. What do you got?
Am I on the show right now?
That's when I said you're on the air.
Okay.
It's a freaky because we didn't put you through the call screener.
Okay. Yeah, it just threw me off. Sorry. What I wanted to call in and talk about is just kind of the way that debates are generally going, with the atheists. I guess I'm just expressing like how I've kind of gotten tired of, you see the Four Horsemen and the debates tend to be, does God exist? Is religion good and stuff like that? Mm-hmm. And I don't ever see debates that, just deal with the Bible or something like that. And it seems to me like the first step that you would want, towards like influencing Christians is like to show them the gaps in their faith,
Well, I think some of those things come up in the course of those discussions. Yeah. It might be that you'd be really hard pressed to find somebody, you'd be hard pressed to find a biblical literalist, for example, who really wants to defend the Bible in public. Because the ones who are literalists who also know quite a bit about it probably know how difficult that would be. When you've got, which parts do you decide are literally true or not? Talking snakes and talking donkeys, are those literally true? And so as soon as you admit that there's something that you're not going to take as literal, that must be metaphor, now you put yourself in the position of defending what's true and what's not. But what ends up happening, like in the debate that I'll do Thursday, the question, of course, is good without God, and I'll be defending a secular morality, and I'll be pointing out, flaws in religious moralities and why they shouldn't even be called that. But there's a tip for you, Mark, if you're watching. I'm going to hit that. But that sounded weird. Sorry, I'm a little sick today. But the thing is, in the course of these discussions, I think those points do kind of get raised. It's just, I don't know what kind of debate, can you think of a debate topic that's specifically related to the Bible that's...
Well, I mean, like, just, I think you could have a debate of, is the Bible the Word of God?
I've seen
and
that
when they
debate.
say, yes, it's the Word of God, then you can say, well, then, tell me what happened when Mary Magdalene came to, after Jesus was resurrected. Did she come and tell the disciples that someone's taken Jesus' body, or did she say that he's been risen? Something like that.
Sure.
Well, I mean, yeah, some of these contradictions have been discussed at length in some of the literature. I think I think Bart Ehrman has talked about this in some of his books, and with basically the discrepancies in the different accounts.
Trying to reconcile the Easter story.
Yeah, there's been a whole lot of discussion on that among Christians even. So I think having a debate like that with an atheist is probably a waste of time, because if you want to convince somebody that the Bible's literally true, or it's literally true in some places but not others, that's actually a debate that the Christians need to have with each other. They don't need to convince us. They need to convince each other.
Yeah, and Christians can have that debate with Jews on whether or not Jesus was the Messiah. As a matter of fact, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, and there's been so much email and so many different events, I believe that the December 3rd debate may be the three-way debate where the subject is, who is Jesus? And it sticks with me that is correct, because I immediately objected to the verb tense in that, because I have no idea who this is Jesus that they're talking about. Now, if you want to say who was Jesus, I may still not know, but at least we're closer to the right debate topic. But yeah, I don't know that you'll see. I mean, atheists are more than happy to point out flaws in both the Bible and in the theology that sprang up from it. I'm just not quite sure exactly what debate you're looking for, and it may be the case, as Jen was pointing out, that it's not right to have an atheist in that debate.
Right. Well, I mean, I think that you could have people, like John Loftus, people like that. I mean, what kind of led me to my atheism, the first step was, studying the Bible. Like, I had actually been working on something where I put the four Gospels side by side in columns, and it was very easy to see that, wow, there are obvious contradictions. And I asked my dad to explain why it would be like that, and he said, well, you just got to have faith.
I mean, as
he
long
went
as
to seminary and like that, and I think that I don't think Christians are really aware. I think a lot of them aren't very aware that that's actually, that the Bible's actually like that, whether from lack of study or just the fact that, like, you study one book at a time or something like that.
Or a couple of verses at a time.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's one of those things where, Loftus or Bart Ehrman or somebody, certainly they're equipped to have those discussions. And I know I've seen debates along those lines, and I know that there was, the Jesus seminar and stuff where people went through to vote on which sayings were or were not accurate to Jesus, where you've got scholars trying to do that. I've got my particular take on things, and I've got the issues that I like to address because I find them to be the ones that have the most impact, and I can raise problems with the Bible, in the course of that. I don't know. I think if you dig around on YouTube, you may actually find some of the debates you're looking for. There's quite a few of them. American Atheists had done a bunch of debates in the past.
Part of the problem is it always kind of tends to go to textual criticism and not so much about, like, the doctrine. And that's the thing, is I don't think most Christians care about textual criticism. I think if they were confronted with, like, okay, the Bible has two things and they can't both be true. So do you think your God is really trying to give you a message?
Yeah, as long as they can fall back on faith, or fall back on a personal relationship with God, or fall back on, well, this is fallible men trying to interpret what God wants them to write or say. then it's a no-win situation. But I much prefer to attack doctrinal messages, the things that are clear, this idea of substitutional atonement or original sin or eternal torment or sanctioning of slavery or the misogyny that's in the Bible and human sacrifice in the case of Jephthah. I don't really care whether or not it actually was a human sacrifice or he turned her over to live out her life as a servant of the church, because she was nothing but chattel. She was not a person. Her wishes and desires weren't considered, and I don't find that there's a great deal of difference between selling your daughter into servitude or human sacrifice, because you basically are treating them as not an individual, not as a person. In both cases, they're just meat. But anyway, there's only like 2 minutes left, and I want to try and get to one more call real quick, but I appreciate it.
All right, thanks, Jeff.
Thanks so much.
Thanks.
RJ, you there?
Matt, what's up, buddy?
You got like a minute.
Yeah, I'll try to make it as quick as possible. If not, maybe I'll just give a call next week or next time you're on. Basically, I'm an African-American, 28 years old, working on his master's in Southern California. And I'm one of the few black atheists that I've ever met. And most of my friends are very religious, and we debate often. And so the reason why I'm calling is to see if maybe you can help me out. I'm working on trying to formulate what my research thesis should be on, because I'm trying to figure out why African Americans are so damn religious. I have some ideas, of course, the black church being more than just a church, being more of like a civic center, and because of slavery, and having to form our own church, which is more than just a place for spirituality. But I've seen your YouTube videos, and you've addressed this question before, I think with Jeff or another gentleman.
Yeah.
And you were trying to figure that out. So I was just wondering if there was something you would personally, if you had to do some sort of project or some sort of thesis or try to investigate something, what would you be trying to look at in order to determine why you think African Americans are so religious?
Yeah, let me tell you real quick, and I don't know if Jim's got something to offer, but they're putting the credits up. You need to look for Jamila Bay. You need to look for Sikavu Hutchinson online. I don't have an answer on this that's any good, because I'm just as baffled as a lot of other people. But look up both of those names, drop me an email, and maybe call back on another week where we can talk about it a little bit more.
Sikavu Hutchinson has a book called Moral Combat that addresses this very issue, and it'd be worth picking that up and reading it.
And with 12 seconds left, thanks so much for the call. We'll see you all next week. Bye-bye.